Hey, good morning. Yes, it is. It's the last day of the work week. Today is Friday, July 11th. I think I said it was July 11th yesterday. That's how much, cuckoo. As you get older, it sucks to get old. Not really. So, what are we talking about today to finish out the week? And that is how much repairs do you do before you start asking for money down? It's a good question, and it's going to vary from business to business to business. But I'll take you through how I kind of figure it out in my head. So stay tuned. Alrighty, welcome back to the channel. My name is Eric. If you didn't already know it, yes, this is the weekday, Monday through Friday. Today is Friday, guys. You made it. July 11th of 2025. So what are we talking about when you ask for money down? Talking about those repairs. And you need to break the repairs down into two parts, okay? You have your labor side, and then you have your expense side, which is your parts, all right? Now, for the bulk of stuff that comes through your shop, if you're dealing with just small engine, unless you're looking at short blocks, the big ticket items, most of the time it's going to be small amounts and you're just going to go ahead and bill them at the end, right? If it's a simple service, you got oil involved, you got a fuel filter, oil filter, plugs, oil, and grease, a little bit of grease. That's if everything else is right. Okay? If all the belts are good, transmissions are good, there's no extra things that you have to do to that machine. I normally don't charge anything until the customer comes and picks it up. And I'll be honest with you, most of my customers now, they take and they call me with their credit card number, and I just run their credit card number. So I write it down on a sheet of paper. I run their credit card because I have an online system, and then I shred it. If you're in this business and you're doing it that way, make sure you shred your customer's information because you don't want to be the one that put their stuff at risk. And the computer that I have that stores my customers' numbers and stuff like that for that they want me to store it. I store it on a computer, excuse me, that doesn't have any access to the internet. I know it sounds crazy, but this day and age, you have to be so careful with other people's private information. There's laws out there that protect the consumer, and you as a business owner should be protecting that consumer as well. So, most of the time, I don't keep any credit card numbers at all because a lot of times, expiration dates are wrong because they've updated their card or they lost their card, so they went ahead and they had a new one issued. So a lot of times the ones that I have on file aren't good anymore anyways, right? But today we're talking about, well, let me just take one step farther, and this is something for you to think about. Yesterday, I had to pick up a radiator for a customer, and it was a custom radiator. A custom radiator. It's for a John Deere 10, 1010. But it had the power steering, and it was a weird radiator because the power steering rod went through part of the radiator, the top of it. There's a hole there. And they're no longer available. So I went ahead and I'm good friends with a garage. That's all they do is rebuild engines, recore radiators. If there's an aftermarket out there, I'll be honest with you, most of the time it's cheaper to buy the aftermarket than it is to have one record. You can buy an aftermarket for under $200-300 if they're available. But for this old girl, it wasn't available. So $800 later. But something to give some thought to, and I'm going to look into it myself. I've kind of kept myself away from it long enough, but the system that he has for credit cards is it automatically charges the customer that 3%. Instead of charging him the 3%, it charges the customer 3%. So if the customer wants to use a credit card, that's fine, but they're going to get the 3% tacked on. A lot of places have gone to that, of where if it's cash price, it's this price. If it's card price, it's this price, right? So, I mean, they're out there already playing that game. But this one here, he's got a sign on the wall, which is good. That says any credit card sales, you will be billed through our credit card processing the 3% that they charge to process this through. So that meant that yesterday when I used the card to buy that radiator, pay the repair bill on it, cost me $24 just to use the card. And that's going to get passed on to the customer. I'm not going to add anything to the parts. I mean, $824 is bad enough. We'll catch up on the labor. And I am going to bill this person because this is where a lot of people go wrong. I had to drive almost an hour each direction to go get that. All right? So if we have our time in teardown, okay? And then we're going to have our time going and getting it and bringing it back. I'm not going to charge for two people. Just one person, and that's going to cover the maintenance on the truck. I mean, I just bought this truck. I haven't even made the first payment on it. And the prior owner that had it bought it and had it for a year, and they put 3,300 miles on it. I've got almost that just this month alone. Yes, crazy, huh? But you got to charge when you're doing that kind of stuff too, when you're running to get stuff. A lot of people overlook that. And so here's where you take two losses at your business. One is if you have to run somewhere and get the parts that you're not charging for. All right? That's one way. And then the other is if you write up a bill and the customer hands you a credit card, you get hit with that 3%. Not the customer, at least in my shop. So on a $1,000 bill, it's $30 I just lost by having it run through a credit card machine versus cash. And I don't know how best to use to run it in your shop, what works best for you. I know some shops won't even accept credit cards. We accept PayPal, Vino or whatever, credit debit, which covers the whole gauntlet. But your PayPal, that will cover Visa, MasterCard, American Express, which is a hard one. PayPal will run those for you. And you can get a swipe machine from PayPal or one that just inserts and it goes into your account. Venmo, or I'm not even pronouncing it right. I signed up for that this year because too many of my customers were asking about it if I accept payments that way. And all they have to do is just take my cell phone number and voila, the payment's there. And it's convenient for them. That's the big thing. It's convenience. And they don't charge you unless you want to deposit it instantly versus 2 or 3 days. So, but I think they do charge you if you use it to pay somebody else. I'm not quite sure on all that yet. But you have to be flexible with customers, right? But you also have to take into consideration that 3%. And American Express, last I knew, was around 6%. That's why we stopped taking them years ago. And then just started 2 years ago putting it back on since PayPal was willing to kind of eat the costs. I'm not sure if I'm putting that the right way, but they still charge you. I mean, you get charged. Here's the thing. The future is cards. You're going to have something, whether it's, like my debit card where I can just wave it over the machine and all of a sudden it picks it up and just punch in the PIN number and voila, That's what customers want. A lot of people don't carry cash anymore. I do. I still think cash is king. Because that green stuff, when you show it to them, especially if you're a buyer, a lot of times they'll listen to you if they see you do have the money. So you need to watch out in those two places of your travel time and the stuff that you're doing in between, and also how they're going to want to pay for it. I know a lot of places in this area, this is cash price and this is credit price. And even with gas at the local gas station, if you show up and you tell them you want $50 in gas and you give them a $50 bill, you end up with like $55 or $56 in fuel for that 50. If you use a card, it's 50. That's how they play it. You see what I'm saying? I'm not saying that credit cards are bad. I'm just saying that you're eating that percentage when you shouldn't be. At least we are. And I'm going to change that. But I got to post it so that my customers know exactly what I'm doing. And that is, you're going to be charged that amount if you use a card. Because I can't keep losing $30 on every $1,000 in work. And I don't want to overcharge a customer and then have them show up with cash and then feel bad because I guess you could say I'll give you a discount with it being cash. But here's back to the subject. Here's where I draw the line in the sand. Is I look at the unit and I say, how much is that unit worth? How much is that machine really worth? I don't care whether it's a push mower, rider, tractor, compact, tractor, zero turn, what have you. I keep myself up pretty good on the prices of stuff and their value and what I think I can get for it. And, some guys will say, well, if you figure half of what a new one is. Nah, that's not always the case. Sometimes a turd's a turd. So you have to look at it and say, all right, what's it really worth if I wanted to sell it quick? That's the margin I use, not half of what a new one is. What would I get if I wanted to sell that quick? And let's say on a $1,000 machine, I probably could get it out of here at $700 if it was that nice. So $700 is my number, not $1,000. All right, $1,000 to the right person that will eventually come along, but you're sitting on it. So I always go with what I think I can get out of it in a quick flip so that we can recoup our monies. And I say quick flip. Usually when I get the customer's machine done, it's a year before I even think about selling it and just saying to hell with waiting for the customer any longer. So if you're just going to be looking at the basic service, I don't talk to the customer at all until the bill's done, till the work is all done. Now, if I start incurring, we're replacing 3 spindles, 3 pulleys, belts on the deck, drive belt. When we start tacking stuff on, the bill starts going up, right? And I play that by who my customer is, all right? If they're a past customer and they've always paid, I go ahead and do it. Yep, I could get burnt, and I have. But for those, I go ahead and do it. And then, before the bill gets very high, I call them and tell them this is what we need to do. And they get to say yay or nay. All right? Nobody is going to get surprised from a bill from me. Nobody. No surprises here. There's no smoke and dagger and everything else, It is what it is, and I keep the customer involved as much as they want to be. And when it comes to where it starts getting close to where I think the machine may not be worth it, I've already been on the phone with the customer discussing that, all right? So that goes into consideration. Who the customer is and what is their past way of making payment. Are they quick? Are they slow? Are they, I've got really good customers that are slow pay. And it's because they're so friggin' busy and trying to hook up with me. I tell them, I said, the USPS is still going strong. Just send a check. That solves it all. But I'm surprised of how many people don't even have checks to write because they pay everything with their card, so they don't even bother reordering checks when it comes that time. I love my checks. I carry a check on each one of my accounts in my wallet. Never know. The unknowns are where you're really going to have to pay attention. If you've never dealt with that customer, the last thing you want to have with your first dealing is have a bill of $500-$600 and the customer just walks away from you and says it's not worth it to me. If that customer was kept in the loop and told what would need to be done and they said go ahead, and then it came time to pay, and then it's like pulling teeth, and they don't pay, and I end up having to either part that machine out or sell it and store it, it's going to leave a bad taste in my mouth. And those are customers you don't want, okay? I've got some slow pays that are great customers that are busy. But I'm talking about the ones that aren't busy and will avoid you. And we had a customer here show up, I think it was like 3 months ago. And they had brought a tractor that their grandfather owned. And they wanted the work done on it. And we explained to them, this is what it's worth fixed. Okay? And you're looking at a complete engine overhaul. And you've got a cracked head, so we have to locate a head somewhere. We got the bottom end all done, and we were trying to find a head. A used head that was in good shape. And we told the guy before we even started the engine work that they were going to have to come in and give us some money. And I went ahead and ordered all the parts, and they never came in. And they ghosted me. And 4 to 5 years later, I started selling parts off that machine because we still don't have a head for it. But he showed up because he saw one look just like it that was from another customer that was on the trailer. And he was like, so you got it running? You're selling it to somebody? No, that belongs to another customer. Yours, we parted out because you never come back. And it's been 5 years. I haven't seen you. Don't come into my yard thinking that you have ownership of anything. If you wanted it, you'd have paid me back. Because the bill was like $1,200 or $1,400 at that point. I mean, we did a total teardown. So you have to be careful from customer to customer. And if you're first starting out, you're just going to have to, don't feel guilty if you need to tell the customer you need to pay for the parts up front and I'll tack on the labor and just pay that when it's done. That's fine. If it's minor stuff, honestly, if you're any kind of a shop, you should be able to afford spark plugs, fuel filter, oil filter, and oil. You really should. When it comes to like belts and spindles and PTO clutches and all that, absolutely. But it's going to be from shop to shop to shop. There's going to be differences, and you got to do it and make it your own. Of when to ask for the money and when not to. Put in the comments how you guys are handling it. I know some shops ask for 50% down on a estimated bill. And then when the bill finally comes in, wherever it is, they pay the rest. That way you know that at least the customer is committed. They put some money down. And the idea is if you can get the customer to put the money down for the parts, you're just going to be out your labor, which can be a good chunk of change if you're a business owner and you have a mechanic doing the work for you. You still have to pay that mechanic. Somebody does. So put in the comments, today's Friday. I know everybody's ready to get out of here and into the weekend. I started dropping hay yesterday. Wow, that sun was hot. And Claude, I think he's going to rake today with his side-by-side because it's got a hood over the top. Yeah, whatever you want to call it. So that it keeps the sun off it. We'll see how that goes. Because this is the first run. Most of the people around here have got their hay all done. Us, I wanted everything to be where least likely to break. Because last year we fought it and I wasn't healthy anyways. But I told Claudius I want everything fixed right and ready to roll before I even start knocking hay down. Well, my 2240, it's a 4-wheel drive John Deere tractor, got a loader on it. That has not given us a bit of problems. But we went to move it so we could hook onto my big Deutz to the baler. And now I don't know if the pilot bearing is set up in it, but no matter what you do on pushing that clutch in, it's not releasing. So that's our next fix today. But I started dropping hay down around noon yesterday, and I'm going to start this morning while it's still cooler to get more on the ground. But I know once we get started and make sure everything runs, then it goes fast. Or faster. You guys have a great Friday.